Welcome to my drone video showcasing the USS Stewart DE-238. The Stewart is an Edsall-class destroyer escort. This ship was named for Rear Admiral Charles Stewart, born in July of 1778 and died of November 1869. Stewart commanded the USS Constitution during the War of 1812. The destroyer Stewart is one of only two preserved destroyer escorts. She is on display in Galveston, Texas as a museum ship and is open to the public. The Stewart DE-238 was laid down at Houston, Texas by Brown Shipbuilding in July of 1942 and launched in November of the same year. The Stewart DE-238 was commissioned in May of 1943. Stewart remained at Houston until the 10th of June when she was shifted to Galveston. She entered the dry dock there on November 14th and exited 2 days later. The following day she got underway for New Orleans, Louisiana, where she reported for duty to the Commandant of the 8th Naval District. The destroyer Escort then departed New Orleans on the 22nd of June to conduct a shakedown training in the vicinity of Bermuda. A month later, she sailed for Philadelphia. After 6 days at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, Stewart headed south to Miami, Florida, where she conducted patrols and exercises until the 29th of October. She then put to sea, headed north, and on the 31st arrived in Norfolk, Virginia. After a cruise up the Potomac River, she visited Quantico, Virginia, and the Washington Navy Yard. Stewart commenced a tour of duty training prospective destroyer escort crews out of Norfolk. That assignment continued for the next 3.5 months, broken only by 2 temporary assignments escorting convoys from Tompkinsville, New York, to the Virginia Capes area. On 17th of March 1944, she sailed from Norfolk to Tompkinsville, arrived there the next day, then put to sea on the 19th in the screen of a convoy bound for Reykjavík, Iceland. She returned to Tompkinsville on the 10th of April and joined the screen of convoy task TU 29.6.1 on the 25th of April. Stewart sailed with her convoy via Aruba in the Netherlands, West Indies, and made Cristobal in the Panama Canal Zone on the 3rd of May. The following day, she put to sea with the convoy and escorted them as far as Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. There she parted company with the other ships and steamed independently to Bermuda. The destroyer Escort arrived at Port Royal on 10th of May and for the next week made experimental attacks on a captured Italian submarine. From the 18th to the 23rd, Stewart participated in a search off of Bermuda for an unidentified radio direction finder contact. She made one depth charge attack on the 18th, but the results were inconclusive. On the 23rd, she put back into Port Royal and remained there for 4 days. Stewart departed Port Royal again on the 27th, this time in a hunter-killer group, composed of the USS Rhine and the USS Wainwright, in addition to herself. On the 3rd of June, the 3 warships rendezvoused with convoy UC-24, and the group sailed north. Stewart was detached on the 8th, and on the 9th, she put into Boston, Massachusetts. On the 25th, she shifted to Casco Bay, Maine, and the following day conducted anti-submarine warfare, ASW, exercises with the Italian submarine Vortice. On the 27th, she sailed south to Norfolk. Stewart arrived on the 29th and put to sea again on the 1st of July in the escort of convoy UGF-12. The destroyer Escort screened the convoy to Naples, Italy, where it arrived on the 15th of July. She departed Naples in the screen of the return convoy GUF-12 and moored at the Brooklyn Navy Yard on the 3rd of August. A few weeks later, she returned to Casco Bay for 2 days of training. She entered dry dock at Boston on the 17th. She left dry dock 4 days later and soon got underway to join another convoy at Norfolk. On the 24th, she began another voyage from Norfolk to Naples, returning to the United States at New York City on the 26th of September. On the 20th of October, she returned to Boston. She sailed 2 days later in the screen convoy of CU-44. On that same day, Stewart dropped 4 depth charges at a sound contact, but had to abandon the search and return to the convoy. She entered the River Clyde and moored there on the 2nd of November. 8 days later, the destroyer Escort sailed for the United States and arrived in New York on the 22nd of November. Following another round of ASW training off Nantucket Island, this time with the Italian submarine Goffredo Mameli, she departed Boston on the 10th of December in the screen of another convoy. 10 days later, she entered Plymouth Sound. A few days later, she shifted to the Isle of Wight, where she joined another convoy getting underway for America. Between January and June 1945, Stewart escorted 3 more convoys to England, 1 to Falmouth and 2 to Liverpool. Between each round trip, she trained off the New England coast. On the second mission, Stewart was called upon to assist SS St. Mihiel in fighting fires caused by a collision with SS Nashbulk. Following her final voyage to England, Stewart put into the New York Navy Yard for 18 days. In June of 1945, she departed New York for Norfolk, arriving there on the 26th. After a brief stop, she continued on to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where she conducted training exercises for 2 weeks in July. She departed Cuba with the USS Edsall and the USS Moore. The 3 warships transited the Panama Canal on the 16th of July and made San Diego on the 24th. Then USS Wilhoit joined Stewart and the other 2 destroyers as they headed for Pearl Harbor on the 28th. The formation reached Pearl Harbor on the 4th of August, and Stewart conducted training, first with the USS Spearfish, then with the USS Baltimore. In September, she departed for the West Coast. She stopped at San Diego for 3 days and then continued on to the Canal Zone. She retransited the canal on the 22nd of September and made Philadelphia on the 27th. 1 month later, Stewart reported for duty to the Atlantic Reserve Fleet at Philadelphia. Stewart was placed out of commission in reserve on January of 47 at Green Cove Springs, Florida. Stewart was first berthed in Charleston in 1958 and then in Norfolk in 1959. Finally, she was berthed in Orange, Texas in 1969. In 1972, the destroyer Escort underwent inspection and survey and was found to be unfit for further naval service. Her name was struck from the Navy list on the 1st of October, 1972. On the 25th of June, 1974, Stewart and the Gato-class submarine Kavala were donated by the U.S. Navy to the city of Galveston for use as part of the American Undersea Warfare Center at Seawolf Park. The municipal park is a memorial to the loss of the USS Seawolf, SS-197, and the Texans who died in World War II. The park is located on Pelican Island, just north of Galveston. Over the years, a lack of maintenance, the elements, and vandalism had left Stewart and Kavala in extremely poor condition. In 1996, the U.S. Navy was considering reclaiming Stewart and placing her in the care of the Carnegie Institute. In October 1998, the Galveston Park Board announced its intention to scrap both vessels and turn Seawolf Park into an RV park. After protracted public debate, the Parks Board allowed the Kavala Historical Foundation to raise funds for the restoration and preservation of the vessels. On 11th of November 2007, Stewart was officially inducted into the National Register of historic places. On the 13th of September 2008, Stewart suffered extensive flooding and wind damage as a result of Hurricane Ike. While Hurricane Ike hit Galveston as a strong Category 2 storm, most of the damage caused to the ships resulted from the Category 5 equivalent storm surge. Damage to both Cavalla and Stewart was extensive, but restoration activities have brought both vessels back to daily maintenance level condition. I enjoyed my visit thoroughly of the two ships.